You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Greetings, everyone. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily, episode 1536. Today's tip is an excerpt from the Dressage Radio Show featuring co-hosts Reese and Phil, and they're going to answer a listener question about the best kind of warm-up at the horse show. A well-thought-out warm-up strategy is a really handy tool for every equestrian's toolbox. And speaking of handy tools, what about handy tools from Kinetic Vet, like Equisheild CKHC? Don't let your horse suffer from itchy, irritated skin any longer with Equisheild CKHC by Kinetic Vet. Its powerful formula combines 3 ingredients to fight bacteria, tackle fungus, and soothe inflamed skin. Equisheild CKHC comes in a convenient shampoo, a salve for targeted relief, and a spray-on for on-the-go treatment. See the difference Equisheild CKHC can make in your horse's skin. Visit kineticvet.com or ask your veterinarian to order it today. Equisheild CKHC, relief for your horse, peace of mind for you.
The question is this: how do more experienced riders warm up for your dressage test? I know that all horses are different, and I'm having trouble now that my tests are more complicated. So we're talking about third level, knowing how to pick which movements to warm up and which ones to school before the ring. I don't show a lot, so I've been trying to figure this out at home, but it's not really the same.
Yeah, this is an awesome question. I actually love it because now I don't know about you, Phil, but I think you're very similar to me. So once the horse is ready to show, let's say third level, right? The horse, and we'll just say third one. My horse knows how to half pass. My horse knows how to do flying changes. Like, I'm not teaching the test anymore. I have now entered the horse show and I'm preparing to go to the horse show. I will literally take time with my coach and with myself and figure out a warm-up plan. And then
you got to have a plan, right?
You got to have a plan, and you got to practice your plan.
Yeah.
So I know, and now I've talked about it on the show. I'm super open about it. I have show anxiety. So one of the things that I have done and worked with my coaches and my sports psychologists, et cetera, is knowing exactly how much time I need, what I'm going to do. I want my horses to know what we're going to do. And so I'm not figuring it out at the horse show, if that makes sense, because that actually gives me anxiety. I want to know, okay, and in my mind, I have a couple scenarios, right? So in my mind, let's say I know I need 30 minutes. I'm going to build in 5 minutes for a problem. I am going to have scoped out how long it takes me to get to the warm-up, what the warm-up situation is. I get on with a mounting block, so I make sure there's a mounting block. So I am very detail-oriented in my plan. I know other riders that aren't, but for me, I have to know all of that stuff in advance. And if I can't get to the horse show, which doesn't really happen. So let's say a horse show in Kentucky or Florida, I've been to the venues, I've already scoped it out. I don't worry as much because I know what it's going to feel like to show there. But the day before, if I haven't been to that venue, I scope it out, and I maybe even get on the horse that day and maybe just mentally prepare. So I even have a plan of what I do the day before the horse show. I'm that detail oriented because that's what kind of helps me be prepared for competition. So I have worked on that in advance. I know exactly, for third level, what I need to warm up the walk pirouettes, what I need to warm up the half passes and trot. And then third one, there's no canter, but if I have canter half passes, I'm going to know how I'm going to do that. So, but that's for every horse, even young horses. And young horses, I maybe even build in a little bit more of a plan, if we need to do that. So, ideally, once you get to the horse show, I'm going to stick pretty close to my plan. I have had young horses that, I will never forget. My mom flew down. My mom owns Follow Me, Big Mike, who I've always talked about on the show. She owns him with me. And we walked him down the horse show, and he just had a meltdown. I couldn't get on my plan. I couldn't even get on him, let alone my plan. And for me, I just scratched. I just said, it was an open class. I was like, tomorrow is another day. I then scrapped my plan, and he needed a little more time in the lunge. He needed a little bit more time to warm up. So it's not that I won't deviate from that plan, but if I'm going to deviate, I'm sort of jumping ship and calling it a day. So that's what I do. Phil, what do you do? That's kind of what I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very similar. You know, you've got to have a quote unquote warm up plan, so you know exactly what you need to work on, how to ride each movement. So if you've got a smaller moving horse that you need to get in front of your leg, you would be riding the changes a little bit in front of your leg, or whatever it is. You have to be very specific at home. What's the goal today? What's the goal of going to the show? How to best prepare your horse and how not to get messed up. So I think that's absolutely what you should be doing. And again, the point about having the time prepared. So before I go to a horse show, I will time my warm up to say. Mm-hmm. This is exactly what I need to do. And this is, and then, a 5-minute buffer never hurts. You can certainly,
so something breaks.
At the horse show, you can certainly, walk for 5 minutes. I think that's, but, and just stick to your plan. So, third level is a pretty good example, but, not great in that, for me, I like that test. I like those. I like all of them in third level because they flow really nicely and they're not too technical. Second level, a little bit different because, you got to be a little bit more precise about shoulder in, turn right, turn left, shoulder in, so that would be a different type of warm up. But basically you're going to, in your warm up, run through the test in your head and maybe almost run through the entirety of the test.
I do. With most horses. Not the Grand Prix. At the Grand Prix, typically that's a little like you said, the Grand Prix, if you ran through it, you probably wouldn't have depends on your horse, right?
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have enough horse. I mean, sometimes with Grand Prix horses, you're out there for, Bingo had like a 12-minute warm up because I needed extra power. I had to just get them laterally supple side to side and front to back or back to front and active. So it is hard to like in this discussion because it is really common you have to really work with your coach with your specific horse. But I love that timing. And I don't know how you guys do it, but literally I just say, okay, today we're going to work on the warm-up strategy and we're going to time from the minute you put your foot in that stirrup to the minute we think you're ready to go in. And then maybe we ride the test that day. See how the warm-up works.
Just run through the warm-up and then run through the test and look for problems and adjust accordingly. So
but I think that's part of this too, is like people, they don't, it drives me crazy. And my students know, don't do it. Like if you're showing a test and you've entered it in the horse show, please do not show up and not know your test. Like, don't do it. You'll see my head pop off. From a technical point of view, in every test, there's usually a little spot that's difficult, and it's maybe a quick transition or it doesn't ride as smoothly as it looks like it will on paper. So I think it's really important that people take time to read the test, know the test. And when you go for your lesson and you're working on specifically the warm-up, that you do that in advance so that you can really work on it. You're not like, where do I turn? How do I, and what do I do? So that's another hot take for me is really know your test so that it's not part of that discussion. And I like to do this a couple weeks in advance so that you have a little bit of time to practice. So it's not such a quick thing.
Yeah, I would say a couple weeks at minimum, probably a couple of months, but it depends. I mean, if it's a horse that you've ridden a long time and the horse, then you can know, where's the point that he's ready to ride, ready to go into the ring, right? And if you've shown him a lot, then you can have more experience, right? Because at first, going to a horse show is just like you're getting miles under your belt, you're getting miles under the horse's belt, and you're getting miles as a partnership. You got to do that a lot. You got to do that a lot before you're really ready to excel in the show ring.
Well, and it's just like practicing anything. And the other thing that I picked up from this show, we were talking to a judge, and I know what to do. And I've in my plan thought about what I'm going to do when I'm around the ring, because my coaches and I have talked about it. Like we were like, okay, what are you going to do around the ring? But that is now something I also add into that practice, or maybe a different day, is what are you going to do around the ring when you're not with me in your ear? Okay, so I've let you go. We walked in, your team has buffed you and gotten you cleaned up, and you had your water, and you're going into the ring, right? To where we can no longer kind of talk to you and get you ready. What are you going to do around the ring? I think that's also something that now I do talk to students, like, okay, let's prep. Like, you're going to go in, you're going to turn right, whatever it may be. You're going to do a couple extensions, you're going to do a little canter, whatever it is. We will have also worked that. So once you get to that horse show ring, you're pretty well, I like people to be pretty well prepared. And that's any test on any horse, because things can go wrong. And, sometimes we do talk about, okay, if that horse spooks or something happens, what are you going to do? So, yeah. So I think these are great tips. I hope that helps answer your question, because it's a great question and definitely worth your time. And I think that's the only thing that professional riders have over non-professional riders, in the sense of, we do it more often typically. That's a generalization, but the more often you do something, the better you get at it. And so it's the same thing with horse shows. A lot of my students, they show like 2 or 3 times a year, and it's hard to get good at something that you do 2 or 3 times a year. You know what I mean? So that's why I think Phil and I are big in practice. We're big in schooling shows, so that when you get down that center line at the expensive recognized show, you're pretty well prepared and you're ready to rock it. So we hope that helps.
Well, there you have it. Horse Radio Network has thousands of engaging podcasts for horse people, and you can have them sent right to your phone. Just subscribe via your favorite podcast player. This is Coach Jen, and I will be back again soon with another tip. Until then, go ride your horse. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements made by guests on the Horse Tip Daily. Please use your own judgment when listening to the tips on this show.